vacuum gauge to tell what's going on inside of your engine. Now, there are a huge amount of things you can learn about what's going on inside of your engine with one of these. And in this video, I'm going to go through pretty much all of them. But first, I'm going to show you how to connect this and how to actually use it. Now, a normal vacuum condition is, there's a little region here for it, occurs between 17 and 21 to 22 inches of mercury. And inches of mercury is a unit of pressure. So, we want it to be in this green region right here. And another thing we can do to sort of confirm the good condition is we can blip the throttle. If you have an electronic throttle, you're going to have this, you can't really do this from outside. You're going to have someone do it from inside. But you just blip the throttle real quick, just open it up and let it go back, and it should jump down close to 0, then go above to around 25, and then settle back down in this region. So we're going to do that. And then after that, I'm going to go through all the different scenarios that you can come across when using one of these and what you can actually diagnose. So when you read vacuum on an engine, you want to pick a line that comes right from the intake manifold and is not some routed off line. So we're going to take this line right here in the middle. I already pulled back the little clamp holding it on, so we're going to take that off, and that's the line we're going to tap to read vacuum. Just take our angle pliers here, take that off, and that's the line we're going to tap. Now, if you get a good kit, your vacuum gauge will come with a bunch of fittings that you can put on the end of it. You know, they have a T-fitting. This is really easy to tap into a line. You put the gauge right here, and then the line just goes on these two fittings. But what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this fitting right here. So this can just go into my hose here, like that. There. So now, I'm just going to stick this in the line. And since it's wedged, it's going to create a seal. And I can get vacuum from that. Okay, so when we take the vacuum, we're just going to take this and just stick it into this line like that. There. Now, I'm going to start the engine and look at the gauge. Okay, I'm going to start the engine. The scale you're looking at is this inside scale, 15, 20, 25. That's the scale you're looking at. This is 0, so it's going to come this way. Alright, so we're reading 20 inches of mercury. Now remember what I said, that's a healthy motor, but a way to verify that it's healthy is to blip the throttle real quick, and it should drop towards 0, then go above towards 25, and then settle back down. There you go. Now, notice that it's staying steady. That's a good sign. If you have any sort of restriction in your intake system, then you will read a higher than normal reading. So this is the normal condition. So if it's a steady reading above this, it's likely you have a restriction in your intake system. An exhaust obstruction or damaged exhaust pipe will show itself by when you start the engine up. It will be at normal vacuum, but if it steadily starts to decrease down to about between 0 and 5, especially while you're revving the engine. If you rev a steady engine and it starts to go down, that is a sign that there's some sort of exhaust obstruction. Sometimes the pipes can damage on the inside. If you have an intake manifold leak or any type of large vacuum leak, it'll show itself by a very low, steady reading. A steady reading between 8 and 14 inches of mercury indicates incorrect valve timing. There's something wrong with the valve timing. Maybe the timing chain slipped or something like that. If you have a periodic drop in vacuum as the motor's running, that indicates leaking valves. Sticking valves also show the same periodic drop in vacuum, but it will be less regular. If it's a regular periodic drop, then that's leaking valves. If it's a periodic drop that's irregular, that's sticking valves. A fast vibrating needle indicates worn valve guides. So the number of guides worn is proportional to how fast it's vibrating. On accelerating the engine, you can diagnose weak valve springs because the gauge will swing back. It'll swing back and forth, and the extent of this swing is dependent on how high you're revving the engine. So if the needle is steady and you start to rev the engine, and then the needle starts to swing back and forth, that's a sign that you have weak valve springs. A head gasket leak can be seen by a regular swing or float between 5 and 19 inches of mercury. Worn piston rings show themselves by a steady low reading. You can confirm this by accelerating the engine to about 4,000 RPM, and then close the throttle quickly, and the gauge should momentarily read between 3 and 7 inches above normal. Any figure below this would indicate a piston ring problem. And finally, improper idle mixture is indicated by readings that float slowly between 13 and 17 inches of mercury. So you can learn a lot about what's going on inside of your engine with a vacuum gauge. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, like, thumbs up, and subscribe. See ya.
Quý khách mua hàng vui lòng liên hệ số điện thoại 0909797251 hoặc Zalo app, website dụng cụ sửa chữa ô tô.vn.